had to section it, and I wasn't able to just, through hike it, it actually made the podcast better. Funny how that works out. But because I was able to remember so many more details that if I would have done this in 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, whatever, in one straight hike and then tried to rewrite it, it would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been nearly as detailed as it was. So like I did a 3-day section, a 2-day section, a 3-day section, a day hike, and then a 2-day section and a 2-day section for 8 days total, 8 episodes total. And because of that, I was able to get really specific and really remember the minute details, if you will. And I remember editing them and putting them together and recording, and I had a plan to basically be able to put them out, have them all. I wanted to have the whole series edited and written, edited, recorded, done before I put the first episode out. So that's why actually a bunch of those Summit Session episodes helped me buy some time to get those out. And it was pretty. I was really excited when those episodes started airing. I was really stoked on them. I hope you guys enjoyed them. They were really fun for me. And again, I think it's the best work that I've done. But if you want to hear one trip through the Northville Placid Trail, start to finish, broken in sections, but a story nonetheless throughout the entire trail, check out the Northville Placid Trail season, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And a shout out to Josh for doing half the trail with me. A shout out to Jonathan Zaharik for coming through in the clutch with about 12 hours notice to come on a 2-day trip with me. And then James and Sarah to finish out the hike with me. Much appreciated to all of you. All right, episode 60 here in August. So that Northville Placid Trail season basically took me through the entire summer. And then we get to episode 60, Summit Session number 12, and a repeat customer. The unsupported FKT attempt with Jonathan Zaharik, your favorite YouTube superstar. Yes, that was a really interesting episode, a highly downloaded episode too. Jonathan had attempted the unsupported FKT, and he had to quit. And this episode, we really just kind of dive into what he experienced and what was going through his mind. And it's actually a really powerful episode. And it really gets across what he went through out there. And what I was super stoked about this is I think he came home, I don't know, maybe it was a Friday, and then we were recording the episode on a Monday, and then it came out on Friday. So there was a super fast turnaround from when everyone saw and were following along on his Strava and social media and whatnot to here's the story. So I was pretty stoked on that, and there'll be more of that coming up here. Episode 61, my all-time favorite day I've ever spent out on the trail. This was the Great Range Traverse, 10 mountains, 8 high peaks in one day. Episode 61, the Great Range Traverse, takes you through my entire day on the Great Range, doing this infamous, gigantic Goliath Adirondack hike. Yes, it started again with a sunrise on Mount Marcy with Josh and I, and it was just a day where everything was perfect. We made the sunrise. We were the only ones up there. The sky was blue. It was perfect. It wasn't windy. It was a little windy on Haystack, but that seems to always be the case. But overall, just the conditions were just flawless, like a perfect summer day. And the body felt great. Josh felt great. And when we got to the trailhead at the end at the Rooster Cone parking lot, we were fine. We felt fine. So that's just like, it was just, everything was perfect. And that's why that will, at this point, remain my favorite day I've ever spent on the trail, and maybe my favorite single episode on the entire podcast, to be honest with you, is that episode, the Great Range Traverse, episode 61. Moving on. August 28th. So this was a 2-parter. And this is another couple of episodes that I was really excited about. So this is the Alyssa Godesky and Sarah Kai's supported FKT attempt of the 46 High Peaks. Basically, if you're not familiar, they're two ultra athletes, marathoners, runners, and Alyssa is an Iron Woman. And they basically were racing, but not really racing, but like they made it like a thing. Like, let's race. Let's just start at the same time. And it was so fun and exciting following along both of their trips. Social media was all abuzz about, people following along, and what those two did by turning it into like kind of a thing. And they both supported different organizations with their efforts. It created a bunch of buzz, and it was fun, and it was exactly what I'm sure they didn't intend for, but what we knew could happen if they did it that way. And I was really stoked that they were both super easy to have come on the podcast and tell their story. I highly recommend listening to both of those episodes because you'll really get a glimpse for how badass both of them are and what they accomplished out on the trail in hiking all 46 high peaks in one straight shot. Very, very good stuff. Those are episodes 62 and 63. And then the following week, episode 64 was a summit session number 14, which was the FKT support crew with Jay Whitbourne. So Jay was the head of Sarah Kai's support crew on her supported attempt of the 46 high peaks. So you'll get another glimpse into that whole process, I suppose, but from the support crew standpoint. So that was really fun to having just heard from the two athletes, and then, okay, now let's hear kind of the behind the scenes of what was going on to support them. Really fun. And if you're, attempting an FKT soon and you have a support crew, I'm sure you could learn a whole bunch, get a bunch of tips and whatnot from those two, or from Jay in that episode in particular. Moving on, episode 65, we're here mid-September now. The Soda Range, injured on the Nundigo Ridge. Man, this day was tough. So this was a day where basically I experienced some crazy knee situation happening, and it was a limper to get out of the woods. It was a really rough day. Something I had experienced a few weeks prior on the Santanoni Range, but this happened way sooner. And I go through kind of like what I was going through that day, and the reason I put the episode out, because I wasn't originally going to, because I thought, who cares? I hurt my knee, I suck. Well, who cares? No one wants to hear about that. But then I thought, you got to give the good with the bad, and that was a day where, it was the bad. Some days suck out there, but you got to just keep pushing and, limp out of the trailhead if that's what you got to do. And that's what I did. Also, the Nundigo Ridge, the Soda Range, it's a great little hike, and especially if you're looking for, a hike less traveled, less people, and it doesn't really have like a summit, quote unquote. Though I guess there kind of is, because you're going on top of a couple little mountains, Weston Mountain being like the main bigger one, and Big Crow also. But there's, you come out on summit ledges constantly, so it's just views. But the views are kind of all the same. But you're in the same area. But it's a fun hike. I highly recommend it. Check it out. It's a good little afternoon hike. Moving forward, summit sessions number 15, hiking with kids with Allison Cascade Kozel. So this was a really fun episode that I had been waiting to do for quite a while. I wanted to find the right guest and to be able to talk. Kind of extensively about the idea of hiking with kids. I have 2 little girls, and I love seeing families out hiking together. I think it's the best thing you could do. It's fantastic. And Allison became a 46er when she was a week into being 13, so she had hiked since she was 5 years old with her dad here in the high peaks back before there were real trails as well. And then she's also a licensed New York State guide with Muddy Boots Guide Services. Mention the podcast and you'll actually get a discount on her services, her guide services. But you can check that out, Muddy Boots Guides. But yeah, she goes through all these great tips about hiking with kids. And I also had made a post about, if you have, what are your tips for hiking with kids? And a lot of people submitted their tips. So I just wanted to read. I just read a whole bunch of different things that people submitted just to get as much information jam-packed as possible as to like, these worked for us, this worked for us, this worked for you, this worked for me. So you can get a lot of information on hiking with kids, because it is a whole other animal. It absolutely is. And there's a lot in that episode that I guarantee if you're thinking, I'm going to go hike some mountains with my kids, there might be some things you never thought about. But Allison, being a guide and having hiked since she was a kid, brought a lot of very terrific knowledge to the subject matter. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, that's what I wanted to do. I come up with the subject, and then I fill in the guest accordingly, who's kind of the expert on the subject. Yes, we have made it, people. Episode 67. This is the 46 of 46 podcast October sessions, where we'll talk all things spooky Adirondacks and more. From Bigfoot encounters on the October 2nd, the beginning of the October sessions. So I had a blast doing these episodes. And there are 5 Fridays in October. So I did 5 Halloween-y type of episodes, and I had so much fun with them. I was so excited for all of them. I knew they would kind of be met with like, well, that's really bizarre and weird. But then I was thinking, yeah, but people will probably still understand, like, hey, this is all still revolving around the outdoors and the Adirondacks, so it's actually still on brand. But I was able to have some fun with it. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I was super stoked, and I definitely plan to do them again. You know, the October sessions again this year. I don't know what it will be. Maybe not as much Bigfoot stuff, but it'll be some things. But episode 67, the October sessions, Bigfoot in the Blue Line with Devin Peterson. In that episode, we talk all about Bigfoot and sightings here inside the Adirondack Park, better known as the Blue Line. Or maybe not better known, but also known as the Blue Line. Devin had quite the interesting encounter, and if you listen to that episode and you've had done any research on Sasquatch in the past, pretty much what he experienced you hear pretty regularly in Sasquatch encounters. But it was really interesting, and we also go through different reports that have come in that have happened here inside the Blue Line in the Adirondacks. So that was fun. And then, it's spooky. It's October. That's what it's for. It's all about having spooky fun. Episode 68, Summit Sessions number 16, Leave No Trace with Monica and David from Leave No Trace. So this was an episode that I recorded on the road. I was traveling for work. I was in Philadelphia for 7 or 8 weeks, stuck in a hotel, quarantining / going to work / going right back to the hotel, that sort of thing. So I had quite a bit of time on my hands, and I recorded this episode with them, and it came out. I decided just on a whim, I was like, you know what? This is Columbus Day weekend. I already have an episode out the next day. But I'm just going to release this episode because I just want this information to get out there. And it's a great episode. Basically, Monica and David came up to the Adirondacks. They work for Leave No Trace. They live in Washington State. They came up to the Adirondacks in 2019, just to do some events and, see what's going on here and, how they can help and all that stuff. And in that episode, we go on like a virtual hike of Mount Marcy. And, I take us up the trail, virtually, and Monica and David, and they ask me questions about how to incorporate the 7 Leave No Trace principles while we're out hiking. It's a really fun episode and jam-packed with terrific information. If you know someone who's new to hiking and you want to tastefully introduce them to these Leave No Trace principles and without Leave No Trace shaming them, yes, the whole idea of Leave No Trace shaming people should go away. There are so many better ways to tastefully educate people that are maybe not familiar with such. And then there's people who just generally do not care, and those people, you can't save them anyways, you will do no good from it. But that episode is fantastic, what they have. And I say it's fantastic, all from Monica and David, nothing from me. They did a great job, and they gave so much terrific information. All right, we're back into the October sessions. Episode 69, The Adirondack Campfire Stories, The Nye Wolf. Now, this was a fun episode. I had heard about the Nye Wolf story maybe like a couple years ago, and then I was like, that would make a terrific Adirondack campfire story. So I wrote it. I just kind of like took the story that I read, like the little, there's like a paragraph little story on one of the Adirondack High Peaks forums that the person who created it like as a joke wrote, and then I just morphed the whole thing into a giant campfire story, And that person said I did a fantastic job and was so stoked on hearing it, so that was cool. But yeah, it's a very fun story. That's probably my favorite campfire story so far. Moving forward, the October